Welcome to the series where I test out money-making methods from the OSRS Wiki. Feel free to leave suggestions on which moneymaker you'd like to see next. And also, if you didn't already know, I have a nice playlist that I've created that has all of the previous moneymakers that I've already tried, so go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. With that being said, let's get into the video. So for today's moneymaker, I'm going to be doing one that has been highly requested in the last couple months. I've had a lot of people ask for it, and it's a moneymaker that isn't on the wiki, but it should be, considering that there's a bunch of methods on there that aren't really worth doing, while this one actually does make you a decent amount of money. So I'd say that this definitely deserves to be on the wiki along with all of those other methods. Now this moneymaker does have some requirements, the main one being, of course, to have 70 Slayer. Without 70 Slayer you can't fight these monsters, so make sure you have that before attempting this moneymaker. Some other requirements include having some decent gear. Of course, I'm going to be using max gear, or at least the max that I have available to me. And I know some people don't like that, but that really is what these videos are about. It's about seeing how much money we can get with a total setup, and then you can pretty much guess from there how much you can make with a lower setup. But the good thing is I did not use a Slayer helm because I did not currently have a Slayer task for these monsters. So if you get them on Slayer task, you'll actually have a pretty good advantage over me because the Slayer helm really does help out with accuracy and damage. As you can see, I am bringing full bandos for that nice strength bonus. For the weapon, I have the leaf bladed battle axe, which is needed to actually damage these monsters. You will need a leaf weapon of some kind. I have the Avernic defender, the primordial boots, the ferocious gloves, the berserker ring imbued. I have my max cape and my fire cape. I have the amulet of torture with the ornament kit on it, and I have the Rada's blessing 4 along with the Nay It's Not face guard. As for my spec weapon, I am bringing the SGS because even though it hits zeros on the monsters, you still get healed and you still get prayer points back for what you would have hit if they were a normal monster that could take damage from normal weapons. The same is true for the toxic blowpipe spec, so if you did want to range these instead of using melee, then you could definitely bring that blowpipe to heal. Now as for getting there, I am using the fairy ring code AJR. Now you will need access to fairy rings in order to use this, and if you don't have the elite Lumbridge diary done, you will also need some sort of fairy staff like the Draman staff or the lunar staff. Now if you don't want to use the fairy rings, then you can also use the teleport on the Slayer ring to get right in front of the cave. And if you don't have that, then you can always just run south from Relica and you should find your way down here. I have to say though, I think the fairy rings is the way to go because you can also use them to travel to Xanaris to bank there. Now as for this Slayer cave, it had been a while since I had been here. I don't think I've been here since, I was gonna say since I was doing my Slayer grind, but I'm pretty sure I've done a couple clue steps that require you to kill some of the monsters down here, but for the most part it has been a very long time since I've been here. I do remember the countless hours killing the Kurasks and the Turoths, and honestly they are some pretty good money, so if you haven't tried them already, I'd highly recommend it. And like I said earlier, we aren't on Slayer task, so we won't be able to kill the ones that are up here. This is a private area for people who are on a Slayer task for these monsters. So since we don't have one, we will be killing them downstairs. Now some of the stuff that I brought in my inventory for this task was also some nature runes with some fire runes, and that is to cast high alchemy since they do drop a lot of alchables. I also have my herb sack to pick up the many herbs that they drop. And a part where I messed up was I only brought one super combat potion. And the reason for this was because I thought it was a regular super combat potion and I was planning to drink a sip every 15 minutes, so I thought one would be fine. But this is a divine super combat potion, which means that each potion only lasts me 20 minutes. So whenever I ran out of it, I went back to the crafting guild to grab 2 more. I also made sure not to use the Ornate Rejuvenation Pool whenever I went back to get the other super combats to keep everything fair. Also, if you plan on staying here for a very long time, you can also bring the gem bag since they do drop gems from the rare drop table. and you'll see later that we did get a couple of gems. But luckily, it didn't make us run out of inventory space since we did not bring any food at all. I was just relying on the heals and the prayer points from the Ceridome and Godsword spec. And honestly, that seemed to do the trick. For the most part, I would just leave piety on whenever I had a nice amount of prayer points, and if I saw that my health was dipping too low and I didn't have a spec ready, I could also flick on the protect from melee spell, or prayer, I mean. So if you wanted to, I guess, be most efficient here, you could flick piety to make your prayer last, but since this is a pretty AFK moneymaker, I decided just to leave that on until we ran out. And there you saw me go to the crafting guild to get the other super combat potions. I did pause the timer on my way back there, but as soon as I got back, I started the timer once again. Now, if you do happen to have the Lumbridge and Draenor Elite Diary complete, not only will you be able to use the fairy rings without a staff, but you can also bring the ring that you get as a reward, and you get a free 30 high alchs per day. I chose not to bring the ring because I figured that if you're going to be doing this moneymaker for a bunch of hours, using that ring to save a little bit of money during this 1 hour video, it probably wouldn't give you a very accurate estimation of how much you'll spend on supplies, so I just opted not to bring it. Now, these monsters do in fact drop the hard clue, which you saw me get pretty early on during this 1 hour, and I will most likely be turning that into Watson to get a master clue, because I'm pretty close to finishing off the 100 master clues, and yeah, I think I've already given him every other type of clue, so I think the hard is just the last one that I was waiting on. So that's pretty cool that we got one, considering that they are a 1 in 300 drop. And I'd say for at least the second half of this 1 hour, we did have someone just standing right on top of the staircase, just chilling there. Not sure what they were doing, but they didn't seem to log out the entire time, so maybe they were just watching me murder these Kurasks for no reason, but I don't know. Shout out to that person. Now, something else that you could bring if you wanted to, it's not really necessary, or I'm not even sure if it's worth it, but you could bring the Bone Crusher if you do plan on staying here for multiple hours at a time, since it will be not a lot of prayer XP, but I mean, it's free prayer XP, so why not? I probably should have brought it, but it didn't occur to me that these guys would drop bones for whatever reason. I think it was because I already knew that these guys dropped big bones, so I just assumed that I'd get everything in noted form. Also, another good thing about killing these Kurasks is that they drop a whole lot of flax, so they could potentially save you a lot of time instead of you having to go and pick your own flax. So it's not as great as Zulrah, I think, but it's somewhere in between. And speaking of flax picking, if you haven't already seen my 1 hour video of picking flax, feel free to check it out. That video is totally not pointless. As far as other drops go, I tried to pick up the most expensive drops. I do have a filter on my settings that basically just highlights any drop over 1,000 coins on the ground. So if it's anything under 1,000, I most likely didn't pick it up, unless it was, of course, some herbs, because I did have the herb sack, and for whatever reason, I wanted to fill it up as much as I could. So that's why you'll see me picking up some herbs that are worth less than 10 GP. And that brings us to the end of our 1 hour. We're just going to go ahead and finish off this kill, and we are done. This is a look at all of the loot that I got from the 1 hour, totaling almost 1,984,000. Not bad. Most of that being in, of course, the cash stack that we got from all the alchs, and of course the 10k drops that they do happen to drop pretty frequently. Now I'm just going to go ahead and put all of the items in the GE for way under their market value, just because it's a lot of items and I want to sell them as quickly as possible. But again, like with all of my videos, if you do this for many hours, try to put them in there for at least market price so that you can totally maximize your profit. And I don't know if you noticed, but I did get a leaf-bladed battle axe, and I didn't alch it because I figured that if we had the space, we could just hold on to it to get more money in the GE, and luckily it did sell for over its market value, so that was a pretty good move. And also very lucky that we got it. And as we can see here, we did in fact make a mil over the 1 hour. So now we can go ahead and calculate the total profit from the 1 hour. So if we subtract the cost of supplies, which was just the super combat potions and the fire and nature runes that we used for the high alchs, we get 50,979 GP. Subtract that from the total amount of money that we made, which was 1,108,279 GP. We get a grand total profit of 1,057,300 GP from the 1 hour. And here's also a look at the amount of XP that we gained in the 1 hour. You could probably divide the agility XP in half, since we did go there twice whenever I had to go get more pots. And here's a look at the loot tracker of all the kills that we happened to get throughout this 1 hour. We did manage to get over 200 kills, so definitely not a bad day in the Slayer Caves. I just want to say thanks for checking out the video, and if you enjoyed it, please consider giving it a thumbs up and possibly a subscription. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next episode.